Hey everybody. So we're back, back on the road and headed home after a long day. Today was such a great example of what not to do. So I guess what I would love to share with you is a not so awesome day. And by when I say that, I mean we're all gonna have them. Things will happen, events will occur, and there's going to be days where, it's a little rough. And really, it's not so much about the fact that it's not about trying to avoid having them, it's about knowing how to manage them. So, I think that, let's start with, first of all, it's okay to honor how you're feeling. So, and this is a really important point, especially for people that are grieving, any kind of grief. However it is that you're feeling, it's okay to honor it. You can, it's almost kind of a great activity if you have a little bit of space, or you have an area where you can just be alone for a moment. So maybe you can just take a second to the bathroom or whatever, or if there's a quiet place that you can go for a minute. And it's sometimes helpful if you can just imagine yourself as a small child and cup your hands and just imagine a tiny you, a small child in your hands. And it's okay to empathize with that, empathize with that little you, if you will. And you can say to that little being there, I'm sorry that you're having a bad day. I'm sorry that you feel overwhelmed. I'm sorry that you feel like nothing is going right today. And it's okay to just take a few minutes and do that and see if that will shift your mood. And I was talking about I wanted to share an awful day with you. It's not about the details of the day because the details are totally irrelevant. It's about knowing how to get yourself out of it and being able to get in front of it. And if you can't get in front of it, I guess it's just really a matter of being kind to yourself and saying, I've had, 15 great days and here's this one crummy day. Or most of my days are good and today just kind of stunk. And that is totally okay. But the part that people may not necessarily realize is that those crummy days sometimes can be the most conducive to you making headway. And it was kind of interesting. I have a group that I hang out with, and they actually they study the Bible, and it's been really important for me trying to understand some of those aspects. And being the wonderful people they are, they're extremely open, and they let me kind of explore it from my own angle, because I've got such a huge, wide acceptance of all things spiritual. So it's been so great. And we had this large dialogue, and it had to do with the new year, and I really wanted to share this because I just feel like, being that was last night and today here I am, and with kind of having a crummy day, and it has expanded my understanding now of this concept, because the New Year concept, if I understood our conversations from last night, tends to have a concept of renewing yourself. And it's not just at the new year, but in every day and every month, every week. I'd like to say every moment. There's this ability to renew. And it mentions, the moon and the sun, and all of the shifting and how things go dark and light, and that contrast. And I'm pretty sure I've talked about contrast before, and how that contrast is what helps us expand, because we're able to kind of explore and appreciate when those good things happen. We appreciate them so much more, and we're able to ascertain a lesson in the things that have happened. And that's largely what it's about. So in the concept of the new year there, it's about looking back on what's happened, and I'm assuming gratitude for the good things, but also to really reflect on the things that have happened that didn't work out, or ways that you can improve, and then to move forward with this new understanding into the new year. So it's not about celebration and getting crazy and parties, and it's about being reflective, kind of looking for those lessons that you've learned, and to try and make those an expansive point of learning, and to bring that in, and bringing in that source, bringing in God, or bringing in that energy, and opening yourself up to that new lesson, and opening yourself up to that light. And but without those dark moments, we don't have an opportunity to expand. You'll see that same theme in nature. You'll see the same concept in the universe. Where there's that that dark to light, and that expansion, and that there's that winter and summer, and that's there's a kind of a reason for that. I do follow the whole as above so below, and the inward outward. It's inner world, outer world. It's fascinating stuff, and it is so interesting how it all kind of works, like a fractal. So it's great because we can learn from just watching the things around us, in a sense of how those operate, and how we can integrate that into our life. And so the cool point of our discussion last night, and that's the part I want to share, is in that renewing. And so I can have a day like today and try and look back on it and say to myself, wow, how could I have done this better? And then I get to come here and share that with you. So how could I have done that better? I have a ton of things at my fingertips, a ton of different tools that I can use. Did I use them? Nope. Did I? No. I did honor my feelings today, though. I've spent most of my day kind of feeling crummy. I tried to make it funny at some points, and laugh my way through it. But I know, looking back on it, I could probably at least name 3 things I probably could have done better. I could have gone straight to doing like a masterless clear, which is just where you do all of it at one shot, which is a state change in itself, just because it brings you into this centered place. One of my favorite things to do, and I can't tell you to do it, but for me it's been awesome, and that is using binaural beats, because sounds can do a state change, and it's so quick. And binaural beats, how those work is you have 2 sounds running in the ears, and the difference between those, depending on which one you are listening to, can change your state to whichever you're trying to change it to. So if you're trying to put yourself, for example, the clearing works great. I've talked about theta. There's plenty of theta binaurals. You can find them on YouTube and find one that really works for you. And you should be able to tell right away if it makes you feel good, because it really does do this quick state change, and it'll just make you feel real relaxed. Delta, well, that's going to put you to sleep. Alpha is going to put you in a nice relaxed state. That's a great one. Alpha is a great one. Beta is your average. Not sure you'd find a beta binaural beat, but everything seems to be out there these days, so you probably can. Beta is really kind of your go mode. It's you're awake. High beta is a dangerous zone. It's more like anxiety, and so I'm not sure I'd recommend that. Gamma, there is a window in gamma. I can't remember the exact number right now off the top of my head, but there is a kind of a window in gamma it kind of raises you to this alert state, and if you go too high into it, it'll probably create that same anxiety. But gamma is that state that you get into when you are high alert. You're, probably the moms lifting cars off of babies. I'm assuming they're probably running a theta, gamma at that point. But, it's when you're just really on alert and you're just really super high focus. I use that one for days when I don't have coffee. And you don't have to run it very long, but it sure does wake you up, and then you can just go right back to your day. So sometimes if I'm super tired, I can do a state change with that, and it does work. Be careful with these. But the nice thing is it's not like a permanent thing, and you run it and you feel the state change, and it'll last a little while, but it's not really, it doesn't last forever. Your day will just naturally, you'll have a tendency to just change into what you need to change into based on what's going on around you. Certain frequencies, I like to run them maybe once or twice a day when I'm really on it. And by on it, I just mean, sticking to my plan, which isn't all the time, but it's a lot of the time. And I've gotten better about it. But when you're running those a couple times a day on alpha, I like alpha because it's almost like a meditative type of state, and it's just kind of relaxing, but you're still awake and you're still able to focus and concentrate. And that one is just very relaxing. It just kind of brings everything into a nice centered place. So that one's a great one. I just enjoy using it. So obviously you need to check with your doctors. If you have hearing problems, it probably won't work because you need headphones for binaural beats. And basically how it works is, so for example, if you're trying to achieve a 9 hertz alpha, it would be the difference of the two frequencies would be at 9. So whatever, if you were to take those two frequencies and subtract them, it would come out to 9. And the starting frequencies can matter. I'm not a sound expert. There's definitely some people out there that are wonderful. Jonathan Goodman is amazing, and he likes to use solfeggio tones, which I really do like. Solfeggio tones, there's a big long reason why there's a lot of conspiracy theories on solfeggio tones, which I don't really go off of any of that. I've worked out, there's a huge mapping code which goes on infinitely in every direction. It's beautiful, and to me it was enough for me to feel comfortable starting to use the solfeggio tones, and then as I used them, I just got very healthy and I felt so much calmer. So I really just used them and tried it, and it really worked for me. It may not work for everybody. Not everything works for everybody. That's why there's so many different techniques out there for people to, do spiritual growth and self-help. But just go with what works for you. That one worked great for me. So yeah, I could have used sound. That's one of them. I could have just gone for a walk. That's what your average Joe would probably do if they just need to get away for a few minutes and go cool down. I did go and pull myself away from my desk and just sit down for a few minutes and try to just kind of get it out of my system, which probably was the right thing to do because I was able to finally get myself calmed down and then come back and sit down. I tend to rant and make jokes when I'm frustrated, so that's kind of where I was at. So that was probably a good thing. I just get to walk away. And these days it takes a lot to get me really annoyed like that. And it was no one big thing. It was just a composition of a bunch of little really dumb things. And then later I was trying to identify what was it about this whole situation that got me to this point. And because I couldn't put my finger on it, I really didn't go into the whole muscle testing to minimize it, because you can minimize by area. So if you were to try and break it down, is this related to career? Is this related to my family? Is this related to my health? You can literally break it down by section. You can break it down by age. Whatever this issue is, did this first show up when I was 1 through 5, 5 through 10, 10 through 15. You can really try and pinpoint, where did this come from? Is this related to my mom, my kids, my ex, it doesn't matter. You can literally go through it, minimize it, and muscle test it to death. I opted to just do one giant master list clear because I just really didn't, at that point I had very little patience left. So it was just I'm just going to clear it all again and see what goes, see what shifts. And I added a bunch of new questions too. So it can't hurt. Just give it a few, you can try making your own statements and check those. But I think really importantly, one thing I did not do, I really didn't give myself a hard time about being frustrated. I just kind of honored that I was frustrated, and I tried to make light of it, but I didn't beat myself up over it. Wow, how could you get so frustrated over something stupid and it's easy to just badmouth yourself, and over time I've learned not to do that. So I would say try really hard to not badmouth yourself just because you're having a bad day. This is normal. And like I was saying about the dark and the light, and these moments are really kind of important, and they do help us to better understand. They help us expand, and they help us to learn something new. And if you can pull a lesson out of a situation like that, like I'm doing here, it's like, hey, I get to share my ability to reflect back on, okay, how did I handle this? Could I have done it better? Yeah, absolutely. Which things could I have done differently? Okay, well, I'll try and remember that next time. I'll try and do one of these things the next time. Just be realistic. Maybe just one. Sometimes, a lot of the time it only takes one thing. And I get to share that with you, is, being down to earth and explaining to you, hey, this happens. Because, one thing that always got me, because I have listened to so many different spiritual classes and teachers and the different radio stations, and there's so many, and there so many people with different programs, and I've gotten several. So I've listened to a lot of these, and I think there's a tendency, at least from what I've run into, I didn't see a lot of people. They're trying to. Gosh, I don't want to lump everybody into this boat because that's not fair. But overall, in general, there's a sense of, they're trying to project to you that they're in this perfect balance because they're supposed to, right? Because they're supposed to tell you, I've achieved this state and everything is great, everything is wonderful, and you can get there too. Okay. But the problem with that is that people can get really jaded when they get the program and they still have a bad day. And it almost makes people want to just throw it out or just say, oh, this doesn't work. And what I want to tell you is it's working, okay? It is working. It's not about getting to this, we talked about this in my last talk. It's not about getting to the finish line. It's never about getting to the finish line. It's about, what percentage of your day are you able to kind of stay in this place? Like, what percentage of your week? What percentage of your overall? Like, how much time do you spend happy versus being miserable? What kind of things have you seen in progress? What things have manifested in your life? I had the funniest day today because my birthday's tomorrow, and my mom calls me and she says, "Honey, I just have to make this call because I have to ask you, what do you want for your birthday?" She says, "You've been manifesting everything that you need lately, and I don't really know what's left." And so, which I thought was kind of funny, but then she starts listing off to me all the things that have come to be this last year, last maybe couple years, and it's just mind-blowing because she's right, and I have not even, I hadn't really thought about it. So I really would encourage people, before you start this journey, if you can get a journal, some kind of a journal, and just start writing down what you're trying to manifest in your life, or what changes you're trying to make, because it would be really great for you to be able to go back and look and say, wow, I achieved all these things. And it's really good too. There's a practice with the coaching where we do this intake and we go through this list. It's actually on my website, but we go through this whole list to try and get an assessment of, and the doctors will do this too. They'll get an assessment of how you're feeling, or like where your pain is at, or what's your pain threshold right now. Really common. In fact, it's kind of questionable if they're not doing that, because this is very normal. If they're going to say, what level is your pain at? Give me 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, what's your pain at? And that's a great thing to do, is if you can just kind of make a list of everything in your life and give it a score. And then periodically, maybe once a month, maybe at the beginning of each month, go back and give it another score and see where it's at. I mean, if you can make a list of the things that you're trying to your goal focused on, and then periodically go back and check that. Because you do want to see that you're expanding out, and it is important because when you have these days like this and you're thinking, oh, this doesn't work because I had a bad day today, or I wasn't able to maintain my state indefinitely, or I had a whole week of feeling crummy, and that you can totally sabotage your entire progress if you just throw it out for a week or a day of having a bad moment. So try not to badmouth yourself just because you're having a bad day or a week or a month. It doesn't matter. If you're still at least taking these strides forward, then you're going to be making progress. And I said that before. If you can do one thing each day, just do one thing each day to make progress in this area, then you win, because it's something you would not have done otherwise. It doesn't have to be a big deal. It just means you're taking one step in the direction you want to go, so the universe knows that that's what you're asking it for, and it's going to take a step towards you to make that possible. So, why does it matter about the day and night? Because you need that contrast. You do need that contrast for the expansion. You do need to be able to have these bad days so that you can get a new lesson, because it's all about being renewed. It's all about learning new things. It's all about reflecting on the year and setting forth on a new journey for the new year. But the new year isn't just the new year. It's every moment. It's every day, every second, every week, every month, every single moment. And with every breath you take, you're being renewed. And with that renewal process needs to become the ability to reflect back on these moments that are there for you to learn from them and expand. And without those moments, without the crummy days like I had today, without those moments, there is no growth, there is no expansion. So welcome them. I mean, it's okay, but just try and get your game plan. Try and understand what your goals are going to be, and have a little bit of a plan with this. I mean, get a journal if you can. Make notes of what your goals are. Write down what your levels are in your life, in the various different aspects of your life, or write down what your goals are and give those levels of where you feel like you're at with each one of those things, and then check back with it. But try to understand that I'm not here to tell you it's going to be glorious. I would be doing you a huge injustice to tell you that everything's going to be glorious. It's going to be you're going to be renewed in each moment. You'll learn that. That's part of this process and being renewed. In fact, the whole process of reflecting from someone else to improve yourself, that's the whole process of being renewed. It's the whole process of the new year. It's the whole process of that whole concept of reflecting back on what went wrong and moving forward in a new way. So, it's not in any way to be disrespectful to any of the other practitioners. They are wonderful. They're great. They're teaching wonderful and important tools. Grab them, use them, but please move forward and know that it's not all daisies. It's not going to be all roses. This is a process, and the process is that we're going to have days like this, and all we have to do is get one good bit of information out of that, and then move forward a little differently the next time and be renewed. Be renewed right there in that process. And so that is the journey, and that's part of this entire model of expanding and growth, and it's right in alignment with nature and the universe and everything else. It's just the way it works. The only way that you stay stagnant is if you are not taking those times to learn and set forth on with a new understanding. So I just want to keep this realistic. I wanted you guys to have an understanding of what a crummy day would look like for me, and how I'm able to look back on it and say, hey, I could do a couple things here differently, and share those with you, so that you can, when you have your crummy day, which you will, and it's important that you do, that you're taking that few minutes at the end of your day to really think about, how did this work out today? How could I have handled it differently? And how can I do it in the future? All without crushing yourself and expecting something that's unrealistic, or expecting yourself to be some, some perfect um, spiritual guru person that never ever has a bad day. They do. Everyone does. And they wouldn't be learning anything if they didn't. So make the most out of these. Embrace them. Allow yourself to have a little empathy for yourself on a day like this. And at the end of it, if you can make something great out of it, and then just smile, because you win. You've succeeded. That's it. That's all. Have a great night.